All right, this is Roxie, and this is Roxie's roadmap to success. This is going to be a very different roadmap to success than I normally do because she wants to hump me because she's so tired. I'm going to go over some of the exercises we went over inside using the clicker. So to teach her to go to the dog bed, what we're going to do is I'm going to show her I have a treat. I'm going to say Bahamas and throw it on the dog bed so she's got to step on. She's all four paws on it. I say yes. All right, click. Come. And then, well, I'll explain this. So I'm going to throw the treat on the dog bed so she has to step all four. This is why the dog bed's long ways. I say Bahamas first, then I throw the treat. I click for her going on the dog bed to tell her that's what I wanted. When she's done, I'm going to say her word to come, which is come, and then I'm going to click when she arrives here and give her a treat. So we're going to combine two exercises at once. I know, I'm excited to do that. Bahamas. Come. Remember, the clicker is to indicate she did what you wanted. Now, right now, she's really aroused, and so the first stage, I'll go to something else I do if she's aroused. So at first, I'm going to go Bahamas, and she'll hopefully get it. There's. We'll get her. It's on the other side, silly. Bahamas. Come. Now I want you guys to do this about 12 treats each. Each one of you do it once or twice a day. After a couple days, you'll be able to go like this. Bahamas. This is the part where you step up on it. Bahamas. So first we throw the treat to lure her to go there. After a while we want to say the word, she goes there, then we click, then we give her the treat. Now, this is where you guys eat dinner. So when you're eating dinner, I would do the same thing. So sit down here, she comes to the table, Bahamas, or you can say yes. So the first stage is tossing the treats, the second stage is pointing, and then she eventually goes there. But also practice from asking her, sending her from here, come here, Roxie. From this direction as well. Bahamas. So she practices going from different directions. All right. So now I'd also like you guys to do some basic, just real basic training with it. Now get one of these. This is the mini treat pouch from PetSafe. It's great because you can clip it right on your leggings. You don't want to see me in leggings, but on your belt, your shorts, or whatever, and just it stays open when you're doing light. You close it, open it up. It's real easy. It's got a little pocket for poop bags, your clicker, and stuff like that. All right. So we're gonna do just some basic clicker training. Sit. I did what I shouldn't have done. Don't reach for your pouch first. Down. Once I click, it buys me about 2 seconds to give her a treat. Up. You don't know that one. Okay. Come. Bahamas. Come. Sit. Well, that was a little bit, now she's tired, she went to a down. Normally, if I say sit and she goes to a down, I would not click and give her a treat because that's not the cue that I want her to do. Now, I call this training for attention. This is something you could also have your friends do. Give them the clicker, give them one of these things. So now she's demanding attention at this point. She's got, like me, Roxie has some issues. And so, but she's learned to act aggressive. I don't think she's aggressive, but I think she's a little confused. Like she's definitely stressed and anxious. But I think she's learned that some of these behaviors get attention. And remember, all attention is validated. So if she's humping and she gets attention, then she's, I don't want to say I guess she could be more likely to do it. That humping that she was doing in the other video was a sign of her being overly tired. Which is why when you have guests come over, it'd be nice to have the guest visits for like 20, 30, 40 minutes max. Gradually you can start lengthening them. We've been here almost 2.5 hours at this point. Also, she seems much more relaxed outside. So if you can, maybe hang out inside for a little bit, go outside and have a cocktail, just hang out there for a little bit, or even just start outside. It'd be nice if you could actually have people come over who are friends who come over just to hang out for short periods of time. So right there, you can see her body language. So once she barks next, watch her ears will flip back. See the ears are flipping back. So body language, dogs are normally wiggly and jiggly. Now her tail is parallel with the spine, which we like. She doesn't have a lot of tension in her mouth, in her body, but her pupils are dilated. She's not leaning in one direction. She's barking and moving away. But she's telling me she's just kind of all over the place. Now her tail's coming up a little bit on the end, which could be a little bit more arousal. So I think, like I said, this is an example of us being here for far too long. And for her, it's just more that she can deal with. Sit. So that time, try to put the treat in her mouth. But you can also do this for anything else. So the recall exercise that we did is just simple, something as simple as come. Come. Now, if I tell her sit, and she didn't sit, I'm not going to say it 3 times. I'm just not going to click, and she's not going to get a reinforcement. I would take a couple steps away, and then try it again. Now, we also remember something called passive training. And passive training is basically waiting for the dog to do something you want. I don't know. We'll see if she'll do it here. But passive training is what we do is we reward the dog when it does things we want when we don't ask for it. So that's not what I'm looking for, so I'm not clicking or rewarding that. But every time she looks me in the eyes, now she's staring me in the eyes the whole time, so I can't really do it here. But if she were to SIT, or LAY, or go to the dog bed, or come to me, or roll over, or drink water, or whatever it is, I would click or say yes. Right there, that's celebrating. I didn't ask her to do that, but that is a desirable behavior. Remember, all behaviors try to achieve something, and all attention from us is rewarding and validating. So if I wait for her and every time she SITs, I say yes, or click and give her a treat, or pet her. Now, we're not always going to have treats with us. Treats are great when we're doing training. For celebrating, I usually do it with just for reinforcement. Now, because she's a little bit overly tired and I don't want her to get mouthy with me, I'm using treats. But for you guys, if she sits, just say yes and pet her, and she seems to like it here. Because that's something I like. Now, we also talked about teaching her manners. So because she demands attention, nudges, calls for attention, we talked about telling her. So if I want her, if she's nudging me or barking at me for attention, I'm going to say, sit, yes. And then I would pet her. I'm giving her treats. You guys, in that case, would just pet her. So if you're watching TV and she wants to, she's nudging you, tell her to SIT. If she doesn't SIT within 2 seconds, go back to watching TV, doing whatever it was you're doing. If she does do what you want, then say yes and pet her. Because I'm not asking her to do something that I'm asking her to do. That's why the petting is sufficient. Nothing wrong with giving her treats, but I'm paying it a pretty high value for something I didn't ask for. But after a while, she'll figure this out. She's like, every time I ask them for attention, they tell me to sit. So I'm just going to start sitting to prepay for that attention. And then every time I do, they say yes and start petting me. So instead of barking for attention, which is what I'm doing now because it works, I'm going to start sitting to ask for attention, laying down to ask for attention. And then it's going to be up to the guardians to be mindful about this. This is essentially teaching the dog manners through the do-over principle. So the dog demands attention. I want chicken nuggets. Would you like to ask for those chicken nuggets again? We say to the little kids, they say, again, please have chicken nuggets. And we say yes, and we give them the chicken nuggets. So she barks, she's saying, I want attention, damn it. We're saying, would you like to ask for attention again? Sit. If she sits down, we say yes and pet her. Now, if she does it 5 times in a row and she sits and we pet her and then she sits down again and again and again, she's probably saying I need some extra exercise. And so we'll talk about exercise in a minute. So then take her out for a short walk or do something else. Now, teaching manners is essentially directing her to do something before you give attention. Can you give her attention for no reason? Absolutely. But if she's doing this and I tell her no or do something else, that can reinforce the behavior that I don't like. Now, the flip side of this is something we call celebrating, which is just what I was doing there. So every time that she sits or LAYs, I want you guys to make sure you reward her. So after a while, she's going to be more prone to sit and lie down or come to you or drink water or whatever it is. Now, the watchword we use for this is celebrate. So if somebody says something that says celebrate to me, I just say yes and pet the dog. I don't need to know what it was. Yes. I'm giving her treats instead of petting her, but that's what you guys would do. I didn't ask her to do that, but it is a desirable action. We need to teach her the things that we want her to do to get our attention. And it's really important that both guardians are doing this. Sometimes we have one guardian doing one thing and the other one isn't. Well, then she's getting a mixed message. And so if you guys are really adamant about this stuff for about 2 months, it'll become second nature. You won't even realize. She comes over and sits down and you say yes, and you'll be petting her. Now remember, we're petting her. She seems to like it here or here. Try to avoid petting on top of the head. And if anytime that she ducks her head or turns away, she's saying, I don't like or I disagree. Now, if she's barking or growling at somebody that we don't like that behavior, and she's saying I don't like that person, she's saying they're too close to me. So I interpret the growls and the barks as her way of saying I feel uncomfortable or I disagree. I don't want to hiss at her or tell her no, yes. I'm not going to reinforce this time because it keeps on getting her up. She needs to sleep. But I'm not going to reinforce the things that we don't want. So we want to make sure that, I lost my train of thought a little bit there, but it'll come back to me. What was I just saying?
Petting, don't,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So if she's barking or growling at somebody, she's trying to make the person move away or give more distance, and it works. Well, we can also give her a flee cue. So we can just say like, flee, and just throw it away from wherever it is. And when she licks it up, I'm going to click and give it a click. I mean, really, technically, I could click for there because that's all I wanted her to do is move away. We also went over Cookie in the corner. Well, I said I would talk about exercise. But don't punish her or disagree with her for barking or growling because she's not saying that's aggressive. She's really easy to sit down probably for the camera. Bahamas. Now these treats are a little bit hard. These are Charlie Bears, CHRLEE bears. And you can get them on Amazon. She likes them. They'll make it harder for the dog because dogs are colorblind. They say everything in yellow, blue, and gray. So these are the same colors the dog better to make it a little bit harder. This is demanding attention. I want treats. So I'm just going to ignore this because I don't want that attention. Now, if she's barking like this for nonstop, let me know because there's other treatments we like this. But I think she's doing this because this has worked for her for a long time. So it's going to be harder for you guys to ignore, but don't even look at her. Don't
She
exhale.
doesn't do this to us, thank God.
Okay.
So it'll be a lot easier to, do the training.
So normally I would say yes and pet her, but I just want her to settle. Okay, so for exercise.
Do you want to do a new video?
No.
Okay.
No, this is just one long one. This is just for you guys to watch.
Okay.
So for exercise, 3 20-minute walks a day are better than one 1-hour walk. Try to keep it, exercise every 2 to 4 hours is the ideal scenario. I know I'm boring. Sorry, just kidding. So playing fetch. So the way we were doing playing fetch is I had the object and I said, sit first, sit. Then I said fetch as I threw it. She went and grabbed it. When she came back to me, I was holding out a treat to her nose. She dropped the item. I said yes and put it in her mouth. Then I had her sit again, and I picked it up and said fetch, and I threw it. So remember, the cue needs to come before the action. So before I throw it, I say fetch, then I throw it, she goes over and gets it. I have a treat waiting when she comes over. Eventually, she'll go over and spit the thing out because that's the game. Fetch is a wonderful way to drain energy. Now, on walks, the guardian here has a relative who is a balanced dog trainer, which means that it's more about controlling the dog, and a lot of the things are based on rewarding. They call it balance because I reward good behaviors and I punish bad behaviors. In my experience, the punishment creates a lot of frustration, anxiety, stress, and it's really unnecessary. If the dog just doesn't get what it wants, it doesn't need to get a punishment in my experience with 4,000 plus dogs. So what I do is I create scenarios where the dog can only do a couple things. One of them is what I want. When it does what I want, I click or I say yes and it gets a reward. If it does anything else, nothing happens. After a while, they kind of gravitate towards the thing that gets them the treat or the attention or the reward. Now, one of the things that a lot of dominance dog trainers will tell you is to control the walk. You tell them when they sniff. Dogs burn about twice as much energy on sniffing on walks than they do from walking alone. So I want my dog to sniff. Most of us, we walk with a circuit. So I'm going to walk 6 blocks. It takes me 28 minutes to do that walk. Well, what if I only have 20 minutes? I can't take that walk. And what typically happens when we're on the walk, we're getting halfway through and like, oh shoot, I was supposed to take that out of the freezer. And then, oh, I forgot to call so-and-so. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to do this. We give ourselves a to-do list. By the time we're halfway on the walk, we're hurrying the dog along because we want to get back home and do all the other stuff. And we're rushing the dog. Dogs smell the way that we see. If they're smelling something, pulling them away from it, it creates frustration and it causes more pulling. So what I do is I walk for duration. I just walk out my door, I take a left or right, and I walk for a couple minutes. If I only got 10 minutes, I walk for 5 minutes, and I let the dog sniff as much as it wants to do so, as long as it's safe to do so. After 5 minutes, if I'm ready to go back, I cross the street so we have fresh sniffs and come back. I only went 2 houses. I don't care how far I go because I'm letting her sniff. It's enjoyable for her. It drains energy for her. It is confidence building because she acquires data. And you're going to enjoy the walk a lot more. Now, dogs often damage their neck using a flat collar, and so I would recommend getting a harness. And the guardian's like, but she pulls like crazy. She's one big muscle. I don't doubt that she pulls. But I can't put a doctor's jacket on and become a surgeon. I have to learn how to do that skill. Dogs need to learn how to walk with a loose leash. The way to do that is to teach your dog these skills in a low distraction environment. The way we teach is in the house. If you want, I'm happy to come back and show you guys how to do loose leash walking. But I would get a harness for her, get a front clip harness, and it should have an X or Y shape in the front. The front clip harness kind of turns them a little bit. So it doesn't stop pulling. They are often advertised that way, but it doesn't stop pulling, but it makes it easier to turn them. If you have it on the back, you're really directly opposition reflexes response is activated, and they're going to pull more. Dogs are always going to resist pushing or pulling. And so if you have it on the side, it's more of a turn than a pull. Yes, she's exhausted. Let me see. We also talk about mental stimulation. So getting a snuffle mat or Runda, I think it's R-H-U-N-D-A. Message me if you can't find it, but I think you should have it on Amazon. Get an Omega Paw Tricky Trainer Treat Ball, the large one. Now you'll have to roll it a couple times, fill it up with her kibble, roll it a couple times, and eventually she'll start nudging that thing around. That's a great thing to give her as a snack when your friends come over, giving her something else to do. We also talked about chewing and licking release endorphins. So get her a lick mat. Get the ones with suction cups, slather peanut butter on it. Use that a couple times when there's nobody around. But when somebody comes over from now on, I'd like her to have that lick mat while they're in the house. That way she has a place to be preoccupied. You can position it a little bit further away from the person is. And she's going to get those feel-good endorphins coming through. We also talked about now the training that we did earlier. Training, a little 2-minute training session is very draining of energy for her. We also went over Cookie in the Corner where we were throwing the treats. I have a video on that one, so if you forget how to do that one, let me know. I'm happy to share that video for you as well. But I'd like you to Google 2 or 3 other scent games. Now we have a cue that means find it. It means go use your nose and look for something. So I'd like you to find a couple of scent games. Go to Google, look for a couple, where you're hiding stuff around your house or whatever it is. So that way you can give her things to do that will boost her confidence, it drains energy, and makes her feel good all at the same time. So let me see. We also, what else for scent games? Or for snuffle mat, lick mat, chewing items. So I gave her a collagen stick. She wanted to bury it, and so her guardian was smart. She just got a towel. She just wants to hide it for later. A lot of times what I'll find out is I'll hold it and let the dog chew on it a little bit. You might want to try bully sticks for her. Get the odor-free bully sticks. They're more expensive, but your nose will appreciate it. They also have tendons, which the guardian here won't laugh about, but they have tracheas, cow ears. Kneecaps are one of my dog's favorite things. A kneecap is good for about 7 chews. It's a cow kneecap, not a human. But basically, they'll chew on it, and chewing is a nice way to relieve tension. For her, the guardian's trying to get her to take something in her mouth. Again, number for cue, we don't want to say the cue unless we're 90% certain the dog's going to get it. So if I throw a plushie on the ground and I know she's going to grab it, say snag right before she licks it up or grabs it with her mouth. So eventually, when you have a guest here, you can say snag, she goes over and grabs it, and then you go and scratch her butt or wherever it is. So you've got a cue to redirect her. Let me see. The last thing, we also talked about rules, so make sure you ask her to sit before you let her on the couch. Sit before you let her in or out the door. Ask her for sit once. If she has 2 seconds to sit, if she doesn't sit, walk away, sit down, wait 1 minute, then go back and tell her to sit again. She doesn't sit this time within 2 seconds? Oh wow, that's really tired. Sit, walk away for 2 minutes. Next time you walk away for 4 minutes, 8 minutes. But I'm only asking 1 time. But as soon as I say SAT and you sit, boy, that door flies open. After a while, she'll go sit as a way of asking you to go in or out the door. Couch is going to be harder because she's used to jumping on the couch on her own. If you tell her to sit and she doesn't sit, she jumps on the couch again. You could try negative punishment, which is just get up and walk and sit over here. She wants to sit by you. So again, creating a little bit of deference for your authority through access levels by asking her to do things. Again, we're not going to force her to push her butt down to sit, force her to stay in the kennel with the door closed. All those things create frustration. I think that's part of the reason she has some of these behaviors is I think that her guardians got some advice I wish I would have met them years ago. But the great thing is dogs live in the now. So as long as you change how you're interacting, she'll change quickly. But she's going to be like, no, this is how we've been doing it. I bark at you and then you get, or your guests, and then I get attention for that. So again, be mindful. Invite some guests to come over who are friends of yours that are coming over with the intent to help her, not being an actual guest. And keep that a short visit. So get somebody that lives close by and come by, and maybe have them walk around doing the clicking that I was just doing earlier. Have her practice listening to your guest and being rewarded for that, and then have your guest get the hell out of the house before she gets a chance to bark at them or hump them or whatever it is. So maybe you have some treats and you're not feeding her kibble that day because she's going to come over and get a lot of the tricky trainers from your guest. Your guest comes in, you give them the treat pouch, you have it popped open, you have them watch this video so they understand the clicker. So you tell her to sit, as soon as she sits, you click and give her a treat, take a couple steps away, click. Just have your friend walk around your house doing this. I mean, it'd be ideal if you could have a friend come over and spend 5 minutes and then leave. So the only experience she has is the guest comes over, tells me what to do, I do what the guest wants, I get a reward, and then they leave, and I don't practice the barking, the jumping up, the nudging, all that unwanted behavior. And then we try to get the visit lasting 7 minutes. Now you're not necessarily, at first we're doing sit, click, treat, doing it fast. But eventually it's sit, click, treat, take a couple steps away, down, click, treat. I'm elongating the time in between doing this. We're elongating that to give her more opportunity to she's grumbling in her sleep, to help her practice that. But we want to elongate the time between, we don't want to give her treats nonstop, but we want to give her treats so quickly that she doesn't have a chance to go to behavior. Once we've achieved stopping the behavior and we've been successful at that, then we can start increasing the duration between each exercise or each click, so that she practices not doing those unwanted behaviors. Now, last thing I want to talk about is medication. I'm not a veterinary behaviorist, but she is incredibly anxious. And part of it is she was really neglected as an adult, as a puppy, and probably wasn't socialized, used as a quasi-guard dog. So she's a little upside down, and I think one of her guardians said that she just will grab something and just mouth and suck on it the whole time she's here. But it sometimes makes her more riled up. That is a way of her trying to self-soothe. I would think that she would be a wonderful candidate for fluoxetine, which is the doggy Prozac. Probably, let your vet, I would not be surprised if your vet's giving her like 40 milligrams. The fluoxetine takes a month to kick in. It dims the anxiety. Very few side effects, and really it's one of those things that really helps make it easier for you to work with your dog. Now, we can also, the fluoxetine will take 4 to 6 weeks to kick in. I'd like to come back in about a month and start building on our progress that we came up with here today, but give her a chance to really have that impact. But also remember that exercise can impact and influence your, what you have going on. So if you're gonna have a friend come over, if we over-exercise her, that's where that humping came from. So we don't wanna do that. But if we take her out for like maybe a 5-minute sniff walk, 10-minute sniff walk, then come inside, she gets a rest for 10 minutes, then your guest comes over. It'd be nice if your guest meets outside, and we're walking outside and your guests are doing the find it game. Find it, throw the treat, and then when she says, looks up, say yes, or give her a treat. So now she's following your guests along outside, practicing listening to your guest and being rewarded for listening to your guest. And then after a short little 5-minute walk, then you come inside, maybe you go out the backyard and sit down outside so she can relax and have a little bit more relaxed practice. But the idea, remember, for behavior modification, we want the dog to be blocked from demonstrating the unwanted behavior for about 2 months and 6 days, or typically a little bit longer because we're never perfect, and gradually elongate that so that, and then practice, or while we're blocking the old behavior, we're helping them practice the new behavior, like going to the Bahamas, sitting, laying down, all that fun stuff. But practice the exercises that I showed you in here when using your clicker, even if it's just the guardians, because that helps her practice listening to you. I know she doesn't bark at you guys for attention, but that will make it easier for your guests to come over and practice with her because she knows what the game is. All right, well, this girl who has finally calmed down is named after my niece, Roxie. No, but they have the same name. And this is Roxie's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.